Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ambassador's Lounge. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Tel Aviv from February 25 to 26. This was his second visit to Israel, during which he met and had detailed discussions with his Israeli counterpart, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, who also received him at the airport. Mr. Modi also addressed Knesset and signed an array of agreements and MOUs, including agreement to elevate relationship to strategic partnership for peace, innovation, and prosperity. Then there were agreements on cooperation in artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, cybersecurity, digital payments, trade and economic cooperation, water security, etc. The two sides also agreed to redouble efforts to sign a mutually beneficial free trade agreement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these agreements, they reflect a relationship that has progressed from being cautious engagement to strategic embrace under Mr. Modi. Now, they are also indicative of the fact that India is now willing to deepen ties with Israel, even despite the sensibilities of its Arab friends. Now, Mr. Netanyahu, while addressing a press conference, stated that the visit was amazing and extraordinarily productive. Prime Minister Modi, while addressing a press conference, stated that the vital partnership between the two countries, and he defended Israel's war on Gaza, saying it stands by the country with full conviction. This is despite the accusation of genocide against Mr. Netanyahu and Israel in the genocide of Gazans, in which more than 72,000 Gazans have been killed, over 170,000 injured, and the whole city has been virtually demolished. Now, while India's pivot towards Israel is being seen as, or is being described as pragmatic by the Indian commentators and diplomats, the question is, does this visit endorse Bibi Netanyahu's this vision of an emerging bloc of like-minded states built on security, technology, and hard power politics? We will try to get an answer to these questions from my panelists. I have with me, and I'm very proud and privileged to have with us today, Ambassador Masood Khalid, a senior colleague. He was our High Commissioner in Malaysia and our Ambassador in China, where he served with distinction. I also have with me Ambassador Riaz Bukhari, an old friend, a colleague. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Ambassador's Lounge. Sir, we are very honored to have you with us again. You have been with us before also. So I will open this discussion with you, sir. Now, India's pivot towards Israel took off under Mr. Modi. It has been described as pragmatic approach. Israel, with its technology and military expertise, has too much to offer to ignore. Now, how do you see this special strategic partnership developing?
Well, I think we have to contextualize this visit in the sense that traditionally in the past, India's position or policy on the Palestine issue was consistent in support of the Palestine question. But that changed dramatically. I'm not going into the history as to when India recognized Israel, and then the diplomatic relations were established, I think, in 1992. But what is important is that Prime Minister Modi came into power in 2012, and then he undertook his first visit to Israel in 2017.
Exactly.
And that he was the first Prime Minister of India to visit Israel. So that was a moment, I think, which Israel was waiting for. Now this is the second visit. During this entire period from 17 to 26 now, 2026, Mr. Modi has worked continuously and consistently to upgrade India's relations with Israel, notwithstanding the opposition at home or the blow to India's image, in whatever has recently happened in Gaza and the Israeli atrocities. So I think this policy is, of course, I would call it, pragmatic or realpolitik, or basically based on hypocrisy. Now, during his address to Knesset, he very categorically and unequivocally expressed firm support to Israel, in the aftermath of that Hamas
October 8.
October 8. Now, and he did not mention a word on the carnage which Netanyahu unleashed in Gaza, as a result of which 73,000 Palestinians, were martyred. So this shows a typical India's policy of hypocrisy, double standards, because they are the so-called champions of secularism, democracy, and human rights. But this is a mockery. Now, number two is that when one tries to analyze Modi's approach, you will see that his entire period in power has worked towards the objective of making India an economic and technological powerhouse. So where do you get the technology from? You get the technology from the West, from the United States, and countries like Japan and South Korea, and then Israel. So these are the main technology givers in the world. So you saw that he completely pivoted towards the United States, became part of the alliance's security arrangements like Quad and other initiatives.
I2U2.
I2U2 and then IMAC. So now I think, and I was watching a very interesting commentary by Praveen Sahami today. And he said that the new US ambassador to India, to South Asia actually, he worked to make this visit happen. And it's a very good analysis. So whatever the facts will come later on, but the point is that by this visit, India is trying to achieve three objectives. Number one, of course, political and diplomatic, cooperation, enhancement of that. Number one, and number two, defense upgradation. Military capability of India is a priority, right? Number two is acquisition of technology. And of course, other things like cooperation in, you mentioned, water, and then agriculture is very important. Israel is quite strong in agriculture. Now, when we talk of the defense cooperation, Israel has indicated, this is what the media is saying, Israel, other than the renewal of the defense agreement which they have, signed, I think, a couple of years ago, Israel has agreed to share sophisticated technology of Iron Dome and Iron Beam, which means India will have access to most sophisticated surveillance capabilities and intercepting capabilities. Now, and I think Prime Minister Modi also in his remarks somewhere, either at the press conference or subsequently, he also mentioned that this collaboration will involve over the horizon over the horizon capability for India.
In the Knesset address.
I think he said that. So in technology, Israel will share for upgradation of India's systems. So technology is his main focus, and that helps military capabilities in other areas of cooperation, AI, quantum computing and all that. Now, what has happened is that in May last year, they had a good thrashing by Pakistan, frankly. And which was, they were not expecting that. India was not expecting that Pakistan will give such a robust response. So obviously, 1 year down the line, they have made their assessments. What have been the gaps? What have been the shortcomings? Not only in their institutional weaknesses, in terms of incoherence or a disconnect institutionally in the armed forces, but capability-wise also. So that is his priority. And if he gets, equipment like Iron Dome or even the technology, I think it's going to create a lot of issues. And the last point I want to make is on counterterrorism. He said, we are one.
Yes.
We are standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel. Now, what does that mean? Netanyahu, 3 days ago, he clearly said that we are going for an hexagon of alliances. And he mentioned specifically 2 countries, Cyprus and Greece, and said that there are some Arab countries, non-Arab countries, some Asian countries. So the work is going on behind the scene with the full support of the United States of America. Now, this will shape up, but right now, Middle East is in a state of great turmoil, right? You have Iran, that is the preoccupation of the US administration. But things are moving in. So, counterterrorism, already Mr. Modi is using the Israeli playbook in Kashmir, in occupied Kashmir. There's no doubt about that. His tactics, his methodology, change in demographic, a lot of similarities you can find. Now the focus will also be on our western border. This is my hunch. And already you know that there are media reports that while India is involved in destabilizing Pakistan, particularly Balochistan province through its proxies, it has the technical support of Israel. And we saw during Sindoor operation, how did the drone technology worked against us. So this is the overall scenario. I think it's redefining, abandoning the so-called principles in foreign policy, of support of, you would recall that how many visits Mr. Yasser Arafat made to pay to India.
Exactly, sir.
That has dramatically changed.
So you have raised very important points, and I think the most important point was that Israel finally decided, it has been reluctant, it has not supplied the Iron Dome technology and the beam technology to any other country, but apparently this is the first time, and though there are reports that there have been some differences on this count. Nevertheless, the fact remains that Israel has apparently agreed to provide this Iron Dome technology to India. And of course, this would drastically upgrade India's defense capabilities. Yes. And we should be careful about this thing and should work on that. Riaz, coming to you now. Mr. Masood Khalid has very elaborately talked about this, the future of this relationship between the two, and it is based in basically defense and technology. Will India become part of Israel's regional ambitions? Will it align with Israel ideologically, or its main interest is in defense technology and trade only?
I think, as Ambassador Masood Khalid said in detail, Indian side has, there is a change in their policy towards Middle East, and particularly towards the larger question of Palestinians. I see, Indian side arranged this visit with the main objective of reassuring Israelis, given their assistance to India in May last year, when they were sending repeatedly their Israeli drones to Pakistan. Now, they wanted to consolidate their defense ties with Indian side, Israeli side. And then, during the May conflict with Pakistan, they realized their shortcomings and weaknesses in cybersecurity. But because Pakistan devastated their defenses and really, made a big, I would say, dent in their, image of a security provider in the region.
Net security provider of the region.
These were the the main objectives when Prime Minister Modi went to Israel on his second visit. And then, as you mentioned, the two takeaways from in the defense ties: transfer of technology to India, and then the two, one is the Iron Dome, and the other is the beam, which they have not shared it with anyone so far. So, apart from that, India has also been supporting, Israeli action in Gaza by providing them ammunition and other arms.
But Riaz, you see, Mr. Netanyahu is often talked about his regional ambitions, the concept of Greater Israel. Now, do you think India would stand by Mr. Netanyahu in these?
I'm coming to that. This is the bilateral thing. Now, why there is a change? India followed a policy of constantly supporting Palestinians. But now a drastic change, and they have put a circle on Palestinian struggle for the two nation status. But India did not talk about UN resolution on this issue, did not talk about two-state solutions, did not talk about the killing of huge number of Palestinians and injuring, more than 150,000 people over there, and the flattening of whole Gaza. Mr. Modi did not talk about those things. Why? Because he knows that the other Middle Eastern nations, most of them will follow the same line, which India has followed. So this is a big, I think, assessment on the part of Indian government, that they know, sometimes, like UAE is part of, they have recognized the state of Israel, and they are part of I2U, and they are involved in other, common objectives as well in the region. So generally, you will see a large number of regional countries following the Israeli line, the Israeli objectives in the region, because a victorious nation always dictates its own policy in the region. In this case, during the last 3 years, what we have seen, Israel emerging as a victorious country to lay down its own security designs in the region, and India will be a part of it. This is what has been agreed upon during this visit.
Okay, so Riaz, staying with you, do you see any keeping in view what you have said about the bilateral, do you see any realignment of India's priorities in the Middle East?
Realignment of priorities, we are already seeing that, the way they are developing their relationship with Israel.
But at the same time, it has not disturbed its relations with the Arabs.
This is what I have said, that most of the Arabs will follow the same line. We are more, let's say, a large number of nations in the Western Europe. They were, protesting against Israel's atrocities in Gaza. But how many Arab countries were articulating their position at the popular level? Hardly any. So you will see the change in the coming days as well.
Sir, coming to you, what are India's, do you think, long-term strategic calculations in its drive towards Israel?
Well, I think technology.
And and I would also like to add into it here is Israel's or Mr. Netanyahu's regional ambitions.
You see, Modi has visited Israel at a time when Israel is completely, totally isolated internationally, right? And Mr. Netanyahu has warrants. He's a war criminal.
A war criminal, yeah.
And it's not only ICC which has declared him, as such. There are, published public reports of Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, which have recounted how the UN, United Nations, how atrocities took place. So, by aligning at this point in time with Israel, when Iran is on the boil, and by the way, Iranian Foreign Minister today said that his visit to Israel was unfortunate. Is unfortunate. This is what the Iranian Foreign Minister said. They are all disturbed. This is kind of a, leap, a big leap in Israeli-India relations, and from our point of view, not timely, but maybe from his perspective, quite timely. So, how will it shape up? Ambassador Bukhari has alluded to the reconfiguration of the Middle East, geopolitical map. This is the overall aim of Israel. Now, in what fashion do they do it? It's a far-right government. They're fully on board. Finance Minister, Defense Minister, Prime Minister Netanyahu, that we have to keep on doing this expansionism. Now, they have started with the West Bank, right?
Yes.
They will exterminate Gaza. And in this project, they have the full support of the United States, number one. Number two is that by this action, India has signaled that it's very much part of the American orbit in the context of Indo-Pacific strategy and as an emerging player in the Middle East politics. He is absolutely right, Ambassador Bukhari, that India has very good relations with key Middle Eastern countries. Now, there are reasons for that. I'm not going to go into it. But as soon as once I think Netanyahu, his aim is, first of all, that Iran is tackled. It is settled somehow. He is trying that with the help of United States. Iran is taught a lesson, and Iran compromises on the nuclear capability and the missile capability, and if possible, a regime change. That is right now the objective. Once that is done, then make the Palestinians accept the status quo. And there's going to be, in my take is that there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Palestinians and Hamas and all that. And these countries, important countries, Middle Eastern countries, we have UAE, Bahrain, which have already established relations. I think more could follow. It can take time. But Greater Israel they have been citing, Bible and Old Testament, that this is their religious right. And by the way, Prime Minister Modi and Netanyahu have an ideological chord. He is promoting Hindutva. Netanyahu is promoting Jewish supremacy. So they think alike, and now they are acting alike. So I think for us, from Pakistan's perspective, it is a ominous development, I must say. And if you would recall, these days a lot of fake videos are also coming. But way back, some years ago, there was an interview that was not fake by Netanyahu, where he mentioned Pakistan specifically in the context of its nuclear program.
Correct. Absolutely.
So now you have a commonality of perspective between India and Israel on terrorism, and Netanyahu wants to tackle Shiite radicalism as well as Sunni radicalism. So who is representing Sunni radicalism? Of course, Pakistan is, projected in a way, and the Shiite radicalism is being tackled right now. So I think what is happening in right now is that the developments are so fast and so unconventional in the diplomatic domain that one can't predict what's going on. I mean, imagine that you are negotiating with the United States, with Iran on its nuclear program, and the main interlocutor from the US side is that gentleman, Mr. Witkoff, and
Jared Kushner.
Nowhere do you see anybody from the State Department or Mr. Rubio. So it's a very unconventional way of conducting diplomacy. So we should expect more,
absolutely,
more
sir.
surprises.
Absolutely. And what you said about Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Modi, both are populists, both are ultra-right, both are conservatives, both are nationalists, hawkish. So obviously their thinking process is also the same. And you were talking about Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's interviews years back. Yes, it was there, and of late, this gentleman, Mr. Naftali Bennett, who was the former prime minister, he also in one of his interviews stated that he pointed to Turkey as the next threat. Turkey as the next threat after Iran, and he also alluded to Pakistan and Saudi Arabia alliance. So he said that Israel has to be careful of these three countries, which can pose problem for Israel, and of course, which can be a great obstacle to what Mr. Netanyahu envisions for this country in future.
Abraham Accords and all that.
Absolutely correct. Ariaz, Bibi Netanyahu's this hexagon of alliance. Now, this is a proposed regional framework, and it places India at the center alongside Greece and Cyprus. And then he says unnamed Arab countries, which we can guess which countries that could be. And he called unnamed African countries, which you can very well, to a greater degree, say with certainty which those countries are. Now, is this vision or is this hexagon of alliance workable?
I think Netanyahu has just mentioned it once, saying that a detailed presentation will be shared later on. But he has given the idea. On one side, we see, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia entering into a defense pact, and Turkey is expected to join it. And then, Netanyahu divided Muslim world into Shiite and Sunni blocks, saying that, Shiite blocks he has already dealt with, eliminating almost, Hamas, and then, Hezbollah and other, part of the so-called alliance of resistance, And now, again, he has given high importance to India in his future calculus of defense alliances in the region. And you never know how the things are, happening very fast. One thing we should note that while a number of things are happening with regard to Israel and the region, India is not so far part of Board of Peace. India was not there.
India may join.
India may join.
But so far, it has abstained. And he has taken drastic step of, breaking his policy from the past by, not mentioning anything about the cause of Palestinians and almost terming it as terrorism. And saying that both Israel and India would be fighting this terrorism shoulder to shoulder. What does that imply? Eliminating Palestinians, the cause of Palestinians. No two-nation, two-state solution. No regard for a number of UN resolutions adopted on this matter. No mention of the consensus, the global consensus reached on this issue. So I think India will continue to benefit in a way from the defense equipment which is not available from other resources which it can get from the state of Israel.
Yes, excuse me. This hexagon of alliance, which Mr. Mr. Netanyahu has mentioned, he has talked about a hexagon, 7 states.
Yeah.
So 2 are Cyprus
Now
and
people are talking about. Let me name the countries if you want. To
please,
say that.
please, I would love that.
One is UAE. Another people say that perhaps Bahrain or Oman. Right? And from Africa, maybe Ethiopia,
Morocco also.
maybe
I think Morocco is also recognized.
maybe Somaliland.
Yeah.
And then from Asia, they talk about Japan and Korea.
This could be it, but you see, this
But
hexagon of alliance, barring aside the Mediterranean, Cyprus and Greece, these are around Red Sea area. So Red Sea area, the Red Sea lanes, they are of concern for Israel, and it would want to exercise great caution there and keep an eye on things happening there, because it is an important trade route.
It may be, as you have mentioned, the trade road from India up to Europe via Middle East. But I think since there is no peace in the region so far, and nobody is talking about this connectivity.
Okay.
But still, it is they are talking about the defense alliances, as you mentioned, the Red Sea. It is very important. So if 2 or 3 European, African countries are also involved in this.
Somaliland is on the coast, and then Ethiopia is an important city, important country. And sir, coming to you now, did Mr. Modi's visit signal any sort of endorsement of Mr. Netanyahu's hexagon of alliance, or was it strictly a bilateral engagement with bloc politics?
No, my take is that when Netanyahu announced or revealed that there is, this kind of alliance shaping up, he wouldn't have done that if some homework wouldn't have been there. 100% I'm sure some behind-the-scene diplomatic talks are...
You mean to say Mr. Modi was aware of this thing and...
Mr. Modi, not only Mr. Modi, but other stakeholders and other players, propellers, who are pushing these ideas. And we also have to link it up with I2U2. These are simultaneous processes. Whether they succeed or they do not succeed. Right now, we cannot, predict or say anything about it. But this is the plan. Slowly, gradually, and US administration, we have seen in the past 1 year, they like to, dictate terms on parties, on countries, and sort of, enforce them. And as far as India's policy is concerned, it's a total departure from that principal policy in support of Palestine cause, which continued till I think early 90s, right? Now, it should be very clear in the minds of international community that India is a violator of international law. In UN, it even opposed the ceasefire in Gaza. It abstained. And Prime Minister Modi did not speak, as we have already said,
yes,
a word about the Palestinians' loss. So the point is, it's a mockery. And I think this is also a clarion call for the Muslim countries to reflect on the policy. Certain Muslim countries are pursuing this policy of appeasing Israel. And I think it calls for, reflection.
Right, sir. So I totally agree with you that much homework has been done on this hexagon of alliance. Mr. Netanyahu has definitely taken Mr. Modi into confidence on this thing. The president of Israel, Herzog something, he was in Ethiopia last week, So of course, you see Somali relations with Somaliland. They recognize Somaliland. The foreign minister of Israel was in Hargeisa, Gideon Sar. So and relations with UAE are quite strong. With Cyprus and Greece, Israel has a trilateral. So these countries have been taken into confidence. Now, if all these countries have been taken into confidence, it means this thing will now or in the future will take some form of shape. How will it reshape alliances across the Middle East then? Yes.
Obviously, as I mentioned, a bilateral defense agreement signed between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. News are, it was in media that Turkey may also join.
But Turkey has said no.
They said,
it has already said no.
There is still, people are expecting that.
But then keeping in view the fact that, like Naftali Bennett said, that Turkey is a direct threat to Israel now, Israel may reconsider this thing.
Turkey may reconsider because Turkey has been, categorized as a part of Sunni crescent. Yeah. So it has to be, mindful of its own security, and being an important regional country, it has to see where it, the major security lies. Whether it has to, initiate some negotiations with other GCC countries or Middle Eastern countries, or it has to join already, defense pact signed between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia.
Okay, a quick response, both of you gentlemen. How will this all shape Pakistan's strategic calculus in this volatile region?
We are already having, good relations with the Middle Eastern countries, particularly, the GCC countries. We are conducting our regular consultations with these countries. So I think we should remain, in contact with our brotherly countries in the region, so that to offset any threat which emanates from other part of, I think, the Middle East.
Sir, your take.
I think we should remain steadfast as far as our principal position in support of Palestinian cause is concerned, number one. And we should, of course, reinforce and interact more in strategic terms with our key Middle Eastern, friends like Saudi Arabia and here Turkey, and of course others. But the point is that without a two-state solution, we should not even think of supporting, a position which harms the Palestinian right of existence. They've already suffered a lot, and we did not discuss the International Stabilization Force, but I think we are part of Board of Peace. That's good, because we are part of this group of Muslim countries. We are not all by ourselves. We are not alone, right? So we have kind of a shield. But as far as Stabilization Force is concerned, we have to be very clear about its mandate, because a very big game apparently is being played out in the Middle East, and I at least feel that Middle East will undergo more turmoil and trouble. And we hope that there is no conflict in Iran and things get diffused. But that is also going to be a big challenge for peace. And of course, there is collateral damage, whether it's a conflict in Middle East or, in our neighborhood.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Riaz. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Masood Khalid's words were that a game is being played and there will be more trouble in the region. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. The outcome of the visit goes far beyond symbolism. It has consolidated relationship between the two countries, and this relationship took off under Prime Minister Modi. In practical terms, the visit deepened cooperation in defense co-production, advanced technology, cyber security, water management, etc. And the meeting between two prime ministers, that is Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu and Mr. Modi, and this underscored continuity of contacts at the top political level. Now, as we discussed in the regional context, New Delhi has appeared increasingly confident in consolidating and deepening its relations with Israel, and at the same time it has managed, and it is continuing to manage, ties with the Arab world. The question now is again, how will it respond to Mr. Netanyahu's vision of this hexagon of alliance? Mr. Masood Khalid thinks, and with a degree of certainty, that Mr. Netanyahu had already taken Mr. Modi as well as other stakeholders into confidence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at the personal level, the visit was important for both the leaders, both of them stained with blood. One with the blood of the Kashmiris, the other with the blood of the Palestinians, both hardliners and populists, one the butcher of Gujarat, the other the butcher of Gaza. For Netanyahu, Mr. Netanyahu, with elections coming later this year, it was clear opportunity to project himself as a statesman and to tell his own people that Israel is not isolated. Mr. Masood Khalid hinted, and rightly so, that Israel at the moment is isolated, but Mr. Netanyahu tried to project that Israel is not isolated. In fact, it is at the center of regional and extra-regional alliances. Mr. Netanyahu has issues also. He has corruption charges, fraud charges, and he has problems over proposed judicial reforms, which will continue to haunt his political career, whatever is left of it. Thank you for watching Ambassador's Lounge. Please subscribe to our channel, and we will be back.